In the last video, we made our bot drive forward from one side of the arena to the other. In this video, we want to make a simple attack bot that will cross over to the enemy side, collect the flag, and return it onto the home side for a win. Our simple attack bot essentially has three actions. The first action is when the bot is on the home territory. Its action is to move across onto the enemy territory. The second action is when the bot is on the enemy territory and is not in possession of the flag, in which case it needs to turn towards the flag and then drive forward. The third action is when the bot is in enemy territory and is in possession of the flag. It needs to return to its home side to win. Now I'll select a point back up on the home side and I'll turn towards and drive forward to that point. Once I cross the line, then I've won the game. The reason why I don't try to come directly back is because at this stage all these enemy bots are stationary and I'd run straight into an enemy bot and go to jail. So for the sake of our very first naive simple attack bot, they're the three actions we'll take. Move across to the enemy territory. When we're in enemy territory but not in possession of the flag, turn towards the flag and drive forward. And when we're in enemy territory, we are in possession of the flag, then we're going to head back towards this spot up here by turning towards and driving forward. So now that we've worked out what our three actions are, let's go put it into code. So we always want to start with the tick function because that's the function that gets called. That's the entry into our logic. So the first thing we want to do is check if our position is on our home side. So that is, it's on the left side of the screen. So we want to check to see if our own X position is less than half of the screen width. Now what I'll do is I only want to calculate that once, so I'll put it back up in here into the initialization function. So I'll say self halfway equals globals dot screen width divided by 2. Okay, so how do I know that this screen width constant exists? Well, I mentioned in the last video there's an API document, and I'll come back and have a look at that in a moment and explain how I know that these things exist. So I've been doing this for a while, so I just remember what they are, but when you're starting out you'll have to actually look up what these things are. So we know we have a constant here that tells us what the screen width is. If we divide that by 2, we'll get the halfway point. So the screen on the left, the very most left point is 0, and the very most right point in our arena is the screen width. So halfway will be divided by 2. So we can tell we're on the left hand side if our X position is less than the halfway point. Okay, I'll come back to this bit of code of what we want to do if we're on the left hand side. Actually, that's fine, we can leave that one the way it is. Okay, so that's one scenario. If we're on the left side of the halfway point, we want to drive forward. The next thing to check is if we're not on the left side, then we're obviously on the right side, but do we have the flag? In this case, we want to check if we don't have the flag. So if not, self.hasFlag. So if we don't have the flag, what we'll do is we will turn towards the flag. So the turn towards function requires an X position and a Y position and the speed at which to turn. Okay, so if we want to turn towards something, we want to turn towards the blue flag at this stage because we don't have the flag, we're in enemy territory, so we're going to go for the blue flag. So globals.blueFlag, its X position and its Y position. So that's the X and Y position. We put in the X and Y position of the blue flag. And I'll say for this one we'll go fast. So we'll turn as quick as we can. And lastly, self.forward, drive forward. And again, I'll just make that go at the fastest speed we can. Okay, so far we have said if we are on the left side of halfway, then just drive forward. So if that's not true, if we're not on the left side, then obviously we're on the right side. So if we do not have the flag, so self.have_flag is true if we're holding the flag and false if it's not. And so we want to say we're not holding the flag. Okay, in that case, turn towards the X and Y position of the flag, do it quickly, and then drive forward. So the last scenario is if we do have the flag. Now that's the only other option we have. We're either on the left hand side or we're on the right hand side without the flag, or the last one is we're on the right hand side and we do have the flag. So we just use else, we don't need to ask another question. And in that case, we're going to turn towards a position back on our side. So the X position, we can just say self.halfway minus 20, just to make sure we get over that halfway point. That's where we're aiming. And the Y position, I'll just set that to, let's say about 200 down from the top. Okay, so we've turned to that position, and now we'll drive forward. And again, in all these cases, we'll just make it fast. Okay, so that looks like we've got the logic, so we'll save that file and we'll run it and see what happens. Okay, and as you can see, we've been able to get across to the other side, collect the flag, and then return. Now, as I said, as I was writing this out, I would remember the name of the different constants, the screen width. I'd also know the name of the functions, turn towards and drive forwards. And that's because I've done this before. But what if you haven't done this before? If you look in this directory, you can see that we have a bot API document. So let's open that up and have a look what's in there. So in here we have the application programming interface. Now what an API is it outlines all the functions and constants that we can call. So this document will go through explaining capture the flag and the different components of capture the flag. But what I'll do is I'll go straight down to the parts that we're really interested in, which is the function calls. So we've already spoken about our tick function. This is the battle loop. This is the function that gets called over and over again, over 30 times every second. Now if we scroll down further, we'll have a look at what our global variables are. So global variables are variables that are available to all bots everywhere, hence why it says global, whereas other variables we can have, such as self, exist only for that particular bot. And if we just declare a variable without self or globals in front, then that's a variable that only exists for the function that you're writing in. Okay, so globals are available everywhere. We can look at the list of red bots, we can go through the list of blue bots, and we can look at where the red flag and the blue flag is. So the example here is what we used. If we wanted to get the global blue flag X position, that's what we would type there. So we get the blue flag and we ask for its X position. We get the blue flag, we ask for its Y position. We've got different speeds that we can turn or we can drive at. We've got slow, medium and fast. So most of the controls will default to slow. Now you might be wondering why you'd want to use a different speed other than just going fast all the time. You'll find that you can actually do tighter turning circles if you go slow at particular times. So most of the time you'll go fast, but there are times where you need to be strategic and actually change the speed. So this is where we can find out where those speeds are. And these are our bot commands. We can turn left at the various speeds as mentioned. We can turn right. We can turn towards an X and Y position, which is what we did for the flag and for when we returned. We can drive forward, we can drive backwards. So the thing to note about driving backwards is it only has a single speed, and that's slow. We've also got some additional functions like set timer. So we can wait a period of time, so that's in the number of ticks. As I said, it's 30 ticks a second. If we wanted to wait 2 seconds before we did an action, we could set our number of ticks to 60, and after 2 seconds we'd call a particular function. So that's getting a little more advanced. There's another feature called point-to-point distance, where you can give 2 X and Y locations and it will tell you what that distance is regardless of where the 2 points are. So that's our API document. It's rather small, there's a very limited number of commands that you can give to a bot. It's how creative you become in figuring out which ones you want to use and when. That becomes the complexity, and that's where the intelligence comes into your programming.